Good morning and welcome to today's webinar, Building Flexible, Always-On Mobile Apps from Your Magic Application. My name is Glenn Johnson and I'm joined today by Andy Bowie. Welcome, Andy.
Thank you, Glenn.
And we want to thank each of you for joining us. I'm a Senior Vice President here at Magic Software, and I'll be providing you with an introduction to our subject today. When we talk about Always-On, we're really talking about offline applications built using your Magic XPA application platform that is familiar to so many of you. Andy is a senior consultant here at Magic Software, and we're looking forward to today's presentation. If you have questions, please feel free to type them into the chat or questions box over on the right side, and we will have some time at the end, and we will look at those questions and get to those for you. As we looked at today's topic, we wanted to just kind of talk about what's possible with your Magic applications when you want to take them into a mobile environment, when you want to have offline applications. What are some of the kinds of applications that are out there? About 1 in 5 enterprises has made creating a mobile app for e-commerce, CRM, collaboration, ERP, and supply chain management uses a top IT priority for 2014. So this is a very common requirement among Magic customers and among business in general. Mobile apps that are overlapping with core business functions are going to require, of course, back-end integration to be effective as well. And studies are showing that nearly half of all mobile users have purchased a digital product online. So e-commerce is one of the hot trending areas for mobile apps, and certainly an m-commerce app can be very valuable to your organization in terms of allowing customers to make purchases and other aspects of your online or e-commerce business. Payment forms are changing as well, so one of the things that people are starting to look at are things like mobile payments instead of credit cards, so that the mobile device itself becomes a payment methodology. And we're finding now, for example, that 1/4 of all airline sites are now accepting mobile payments. So this is a growing trend for you to watch and see how it might apply in your business scenario. CRM is certainly another big use case for offline mobile apps. Salespeople who are on the go want to be able to access customer information while they're online, and sometimes they need to be able to continue working, of course, while they're disconnected or while they're offline, still using their mobile device and maybe in a bad cell reception area or on the airplane in airplane mode and so on. We're finding that the usage of these apps is adding to productivity. And when you add mobile access to CRM, they say that productivity increases by about 15%. Collaboration is another big area of enterprise applications, and while unified communications is certainly not the end-all, be-all that we originally thought, or that the analysts originally thought it would be, there are a lot of collaboration features which are very important into apps, things like workflow and approval, document reviews, scheduling, and the ability to communicate cross-channel with your device. There are also a lot of specific purpose collaboration apps that we're seeing gain wider acceptance than even the vaguely defined broad tools. So apps that are being built for specific business purposes and collaboration that have these collaboration features into them are also showing up on the radar. Another area, of course, where we see a lot of involvement is the whole area of things like mobile sales order entry apps that are integrated with ERP. So ERP integration is becoming important for mobile apps, and there are a demand for apps that extend sales order entry, order tracking, expense reporting, time and attendance, PO approvals, asset management, management dashboards, all these various areas that sort of extend from ERP but would be nice to have while you're mobile. And a lot of times these apps need to then use the mobile-specific features, the camera for maybe documenting an asset, for the GPS for finding nearby customers, barcode scanning for the tracking of assets or other products and so on. Address book dialing, voice recognition. These are all kinds of mobile phone-specific features and tablet features that may need to be taken advantage of in these ERP extending applications. Also, in the area of supply chain management, we're seeing a need for mobile apps that relate to the ability to do barcoded inventory, do cycle counts, track shipments, process POs, do the receiving, the putaways, and so forth. There's a very interesting study out by UPS called UPS Global Change in the Supply Chain Survey. It says that 2/3 of all companies plan to improve their post-sales return capabilities in 2014, while 71% have plans to reduce lead times. And there's some great stories out there about how companies who have automated and integrated have reduced lead times through better logistics integration. ERP data and 2D barcoding will continue to form a foundation for supply chain analytics, which will be increasingly in demand on mobile devices in 2014, according to analyst sources. There are some great examples, as I said, of apps that are out there across a variety of different industries. The VisaCal app is a great magic application that does mobile credit card processing. It's got a nice sort of modern interface. This is used in Israel. Obviously, it has to be a very secure and robust application, fully native app on each device, and it has complete integration to the back end where, of course, all of the transaction information is ultimately stored and processed. So that's a great example. The New Media Solutions example, which is an invoicing and aging and accounts receivable reporting solution that allows executives wherever they are, whatever they're doing, to be able to answer the question, regarding an invoice, to be able to satisfy a customer's question regarding an invoice, just helping, of course, in the whole receivables process. In manufacturing, you have things like the DovTrack inventory management, warehouse management system, which gives visibility into the warehouse, into what's going on in an organization. In supply chain management, you have interesting applications, including the IREP application from Cleveland Golf, which is integrated on the back end via Magic XBI. A very sophisticated tablet application for entering orders that store managers can then fulfill the orders that are needed in order to stock the stores and things of that nature with Cleveland Golf's products in their various locations. Another great example, before we get to the demo, is healthcare, the Boston Medical Center application, with, of course, secure logon, ability to create work orders, view work orders, enter information regarding work order, including scanning barcodes, scanning photos of devices, being able to close and search for those work orders and so on. So it's a great case study to get into. So when we talk about the nature of a Magic XPA RIA mobile app, it's really cross-channel and multi-channel, and meaning that you have more than just dealing with multiple mobile devices. That's the whole idea of cross-platform. We remember in the old days of Magic application building, 10, 15, 20 years ago, when we talked about cross-platform, what did we mean? We meant Windows, we meant Unix, we meant maybe Linux, and AS400 operating systems, or OS400 at the time, as it was referred to. Today when we say cross-platform, we're more likely to be referring to the multiple mobile operating systems that are out there. The iOS, which supports devices like the iPhone and the iPad and the iPad mini. Android operating system, which supports a whole variety of smartphones and tablets, or the BlackBerry operating system, or Windows Mobile. So these various operating systems are what we typically call cross-platform today, but cross-platform systems need to also accommodate the various flavors, the multiple screen sizes, touch, keyboard, native look and feel, and the variety of deployment methods that are available for the mobile devices. And keep in mind that when we talk about things like the Android operating system, there are many flavors of that, ice cream sandwich and jelly bean and all these silly names that Google provides to the Android operating system, but these are indeed different in their characteristics, and yet, of course, supported by Magic XPA in terms of building applications for those different environments. Now, when we talk about multi-channel or cross-channel, it goes a little bit beyond just mobile operating systems and platforms, and it includes the ability to develop mobile devices in native RIA, in browser, and in hybrid mode, but also rich internet applications on the desktop browser applications, network client or traditional client-server applications, completely service-side batch applications, and system-to-system apps like web service related applications and so on that you can all build in various ways using the Magic XPA application platform. So this is really the idea of multi-channel. And a multi-channel platform is going to support a variety of these different underlying technologies and not just one app technology du jour. So the platform features that we'll look at today, I'm going to speed along here. We just want to say a word about being always on, and what does that mean? Why are we emphasizing that? Well, often HTML5 fails as a means of delivering satisfactory offline mobile apps. So for this reason, developers are looking at Magic XPA. This is a way you can deliver an always-on mobile app, and there are some characteristics of that. First of all would be offline mode. Offline programming requires you to overcome the limitations imposed by the various challenges and constraints of working without a server connection. And in contrast to online, the server connectivity is either bad, or completely non-existent. And your apps need to be adjusted to handle this state very carefully. So that's what we're going to talk about in today's webinar. While creating a usable app and maintaining data integrity, of course, remains very important. So the challenge in offline programming is to keep the data consistent and synchronized while providing the user a meaningful experience. So Magic XPA allows you to create apps that store a subset of the relevant server data or client-only data locally on the client. And Magic XPA allows you to store things like user credentials on the client for apps that require user authentication. And in a Magic Offline program, data can be entered on the client and later updated for consistency with the server. So this means that Magic XPA now provides bidirectional data sync between the client and the server. And Magic XPA ensures this seamless user experience when connections are slow or lost, allowing uninterrupted operation and data consistency. So a Magic XPA offline program also accesses application resources locally on the client, such as application metadata, images, whatever that might be. And then new tools and features in Magic XPA allow developers now to overcome the offline programming challenges and provide users with a rich, interactive experience regardless of whether you're online or offline, whether you have that connection to the server or not. But of course, you have to develop your apps to take advantage of that capability. So since Magic XPA applications can work without network connectivity or with that intermittent network connectivity, new application patterns have to be considered. How you build your app changes. Now in startup, for example, when you start a Magic XPA offline program for the first time, obviously you need to be connected. Now you might say, well, why? It's offline. But you've got to be connected in order to get those server resources that are essential to the initial state of the app to be resident on the local device. So Magic XPA uses that first invocation to sync those resources that you, the programmer, have specified, such as client-side data, metadata, and images. When it comes to user authentication, obviously that's what you're going to want, and the user credentials will need to be stored securely on the client in order for authentication to occur while you're offline. Otherwise, how could you verify the person? So when reconnecting, credentials need to be checked again. You'll always want to design your app in a way that you're checking those credentials when you go online, offline. Local resources. So after initial startup, offline programs are always using local data and images as resources. And in that fashion, they always work even when there's no connection to the server. So data updates are always stored to the local device, and only when they're connected is the matter of data consistency with the server handled. So there's not a constant attempt to sync while you're offline. Generally speaking, you're going to be doing master-to-master synchronization. So Magic XPA allows you to use the master-master pattern, which for bidirectional data synchronization. So you'll need to think through your business rules for resolving any data conflicts. And the intervals that you specify, the application is going to attempt to synchronize the client-modified data back to the server and server-modified data back to the client. And the assumption is that there are multiple clients that may be modifying data as well. So think through your business scenario and the logic that you want to implement for that. There's also the issue of metadata synchronization. Magic XPA will automatically synchronize application metadata on startup or when the application changes. So just a word about the integration piece. Magic XPI is available for integration of your mobile apps as well as part of your overall end-to-end mobility solution. And the platform is completely scalable regardless of the number of connections that you need. The Magic XPI integration platform employs a space-based architecture, which some of you are familiar with. This is a new concept to some of you, which is using in-memory data grid technology, which provides an elastic scalability. So more than any other enterprise mobility solution that's out there, Magic is offering enterprise-grade reliability and big data handling and capabilities through unlimited virtual, vertical, and horizontal scaling for the integration piece that's a very important part of your mobile implementation. The other great advantage is that you can leverage the skills that you know. So you have this single skill set rather than having to learn native development or HTML5 and JavaScript approaches. The Magic solution leverages the single skill set for mobile application development and all the other server-side and cross-channel application modes that you need. And I think to you as Magic developers, I'm sure that sounds really great. So building a mobile application that extends an existing Magic client server, RIA, or browser, or Bash application uses those very same skills and the platform that you already know. Now, the great news is that it doesn't stand alone. It's part of an overall solution that Magic offers, and that we also offer the Magic XPI integration platform to help you with the back-end integration to automate all of the various kind of communication cycles, the messaging, data transformation, and so forth that's needed with third-party applications. We also offer a mobile device management solution. And this may be the first time some of you are hearing about this. The Magic Mobile Device Management Solution allows you to administer and manage the security, the monitoring of devices, and support and policy compliance for mobile devices. It's a great tool for an IT department looking to deal with those issues and questions of what happens when my user leaves their phone unlocked or loses their device, or needs to have applications updated, loaded or unloaded to the device, and so on. So, and then of course, Magic as always has the availability of professional services, team members who are experienced in development of these applications and the implementation of them, the integration of them, to help you supplement your existing team as needed in order to implement most quickly, efficiently, and effectively. So with the environment that we're offering, you then have sort of, a many-to-many approach, where on the right side you can integrate to any of the various applications and social media and cloud environments that are out there, and then on the left side to the multiple kinds of mobile devices and clients, whether it be tablets or smartphones, whether it be Apple or Android, and so on. And the great thing is that as you create your Magic application, then when you deploy it to these various operating systems, it takes on the look and feel of those operating systems as you've designated. And all of this is included in one single stack architecture from Magic, which makes it very easy for you to bring it into your environment, get it up and running and going to accomplish what you want to do. So just before I hand it over, I wanted to mention the Magic Software Users Conference, which will be held June 2nd to the 4th in Huntington Beach, California. You're all invited, and we hope that you'll get signed up real soon. We have a lot more sessions, instructors, and fun. We've added a complete new track this year so that we have a dedicated Magic XPA track, a dedicated mobility track, a dedicated integration track. You'll learn all about the Magic roadmap and much, much more. So I realize it's a long URL there, but if you go to info.magicsoftware.com, 2014 user conference _home.html, you'll find the site. And it's also, of course, featured on the Magic website, and you can just send an email to your rep or to info@magicsoftware.com if you didn't get a chance to write down this link and you want further details. We'll, of course, be happy to help you with that. So having said that, I'm going to pass the ball at this point to Andy, and just have to share my desktop here. So let's see here. We have Andy. One moment. There he is. Okay, Andy, you should have control now.
Yep.
And we'll look forward to your demonstration of offline programming.
All right, perfect. Thanks, Glenn. So in today's webinar, what we're going to be going over is, as Glenn mentioned, the creation of mobile applications, their deployment, and as well as our new offline mode feature. In this webinar, I'm going to go over two main phases. The first phase will be the process of creating a mobile application and deploying it to an Android device. And the second part will be taking that same application and taking it offline. So let's go ahead and get started. So here I have our Magic XPA Studio. I'm going to go ahead and create a new program, and let's go ahead and call it My First App. Now, as I'm sure you're all familiar with, after creating a new project, a folder is created in our XPA root directory. This project folder contains all of our project source code, support files, images, and settings. Now, I went ahead in the interest of time and prepared some style sheets and program properties in order to kind of save us a little bit of time. So I'm going to go ahead and grab those files and copy and paste them into the newly created project directory. And there we go. So now let's go back into the studio, and using our import wizard, going to File, Export, and Import, I'm going to go ahead and quickly import our models and our project properties. And just like that, we have our style sheets imported into our studio. So this application that we're going to be creating today will consist of two main screens and two programs. The first program will be a simple welcome screen, and the second program will contain some sample data that we've prepared. So now before we dive into developing those programs, let's go ahead and create our database. So using the getDefinition function, I'm going to go ahead and pull in a sample database table. Let's go ahead and choose Magic Demo. And as you're familiar with, I can choose whether or not to pull in all the data tables or a single one. I'll just choose accounts for now. And using some of the models that I imported, I'm going to go ahead and inherit their properties. Let me clean up the database column names. And then using the data table browser, I'm going to go ahead and press Control G, or also you can click on Generate Program. And we're just going to go ahead and execute a browse. And as you can see, we have some data. So let's go ahead and design our first program. We'll go ahead and call this a welcome screen. Okay. Now, as some of you are familiar, there's several types of programs, and you're most likely familiar with the online, but today is going to be a mobile application demo, so we're going to go ahead and choose Rich Client or RIA application. Now, it's very similar to our client-server applications in that a Rich Client interactive program is somewhat similar to an online screen. And if a Rich Client application is not interactive, then that's the equivalent to a batch task. So our first screen, we're going to want to have a GUI. So I'm going to go ahead and select interactive. I'm going to go ahead and create my variable. And just like that. Now I have my forms, and I'm going to go ahead and connect my form to one of the models that I imported. So choosing our form, we can go ahead and zoom in and verify that our wallpaper was imported, as well as the dimensions of our screen. Perfect. Okay, so the first things that we're going to create are just a simple welcome header. We'll do our hello world text box. And using the text box and our object properties, we can play around with the alignment. So I'm going to go ahead and center the text. And using one of our quick commands on the right, I'm going to center the text on the screen. And we will also be requiring two buttons. Now, the first button we're creating is going to raise just a pop-up message to verify that our events are working. And the second button is going to call our second program, which will be the program that displays our live data. Now, just to differentiate the two buttons, I'm going to go ahead and change the text on the button. So the first one will be called hello, and the second button we will call data table. Using a few of our command buttons to the right, I'm going to go ahead and make the buttons the same, align them, make them the same size as each other. And just like that, we have two buttons. Now, currently, these two buttons don't do anything. They haven't had an event. They haven't been assigned to an event. So going into the raise event property of our first button, our hello button, we're going to go ahead and create a new event. So we'll go ahead and call this event hello world. Now what we're doing right now is creating events or event holders so that when these buttons are pressed or selected, the application will know which event to call. Now we need to define these events. So going into our logic, I'm going to go ahead and create a new event and define our event, hello world, and we'll raise a simple pop-up message that says hello world. All right, perfect. Now we have defined the logic for our first button. Now in order to define the logic for the second button, we need to create the second program that we'll be calling from that second button. So let's go ahead and leave this program temporarily and create a new program. We'll call this, and instead of manually creating it, XPA also allows us to generate a predefined preset program to browse this data table. And I can get to so by going to Options, Generate Program. Now before we ran the execute browse in order to instantly view the data. Now we're going to generate a program. And since this is a RIA mobile application, we're going to choose Rich Client. And while I'm also in this program generator wizard, I can go ahead and connect this program to a model. We'll use our first form design again, which had our background image as well as our screen dimensions. And just like that, we've created our second application, or our second program, sorry. As you can see, it pulled in the columns, and going in, we can see that the application created a table for us. This table will display the information that we saw earlier when I imported the database definitions. So now that we have our second program, I'm going to go ahead and create and define our logic for our second button. If you remember, it was our Get Table button. So create a new event, or choose which event we'll be defining, sorry, data table, and we'll do a call program Rich Client Accounts. And just like that, we have developed our application. Let me go ahead and run the checker, make sure everything checks out. As our checker caught, I forgot to assign a event to our button. So let me go ahead and select the second event that we created, data table. And now both of our buttons have been defined, what happens when one of them is selected. Let's run the checker again. Everything should check out. And everything's perfect. All right, so we have our application now. Now we need to deploy it onto our Android devices. This has been set up for us, and it's quite an easy process in order to deploy it to any device, whether it is a Windows mobile device, Android, or iOS. Going to Options, Interface Builder, and selecting our Rich Client Deployment, we're taken to a wizard that will create our application installation package for us. So go ahead and click Next. We need to create a new application. We'll go ahead and leave the application title as it is. On this screen we can define details about our application, what the name of the application will be on the device, an application description for when we install, as well as other details for the developer to enter. On the next screen we have our server information. Where will where will our application be hosted? Basically what we're creating is just a client application that points to a server. So let me go ahead and put in our full server name to avoid any errors in the future. Go ahead and click Next. We'll go ahead and click our Start program, which will be the first program that's called when the application is started. Here are the operating systems and platforms that we support for our mobile devices or RIA environments. Go ahead and create. On this screen we can do more customization of what our application will look like on our handheld devices, whether it's the application icon or the loading screen. Here's the one of the most important screens in this wizard. This wizard, basically we are pointing to our Android SDK for our Android application. Now we use the native Android SDK in order to create these application installation packages or .apk files. This SDK can be downloaded for free off of the Android website. All we need to do in the wizard is point to that SDK, and on the next platform we select which version of Android we're running. We'll be running Android platform 18, and just like that we're ready to go ahead and create our .apk file. So after clicking finish, our wizard will go ahead and begin to create that application file for us. And also, one thing that we do is when the wizard is completed, it will go ahead and create our .apk file in our published application folder. As you can see, it's already begun the process of creating our files that we designated it to. What we've also done is configure our IIS to point to this folder so we can access these directories on our handheld devices and directly download and install the .apk file from our mobile devices.
Andy, there might be some questions, deeper questions on this, and one of the things I just wanted to mention was that we're actually going to be going into this at the users conference in more depth, so just kind of a chance here to kind of pitch that again. Is this a good chance to mention that?
Yep, it's perfect.
Yeah, so the users conference is going to be in Huntington Beach, California from June 2nd to the 4th at the Hilton Waterfront Resort. So it's a great location. You can walk outside, go across the pier, enjoy all that Southern California has to offer in terms of the beach life and surfing and all that. Or you can actually attend programming classes. So we're going to try to have some really great food so that you'll want to do that. And it's really going to be a great curriculum this year. It's posted online if you want to take a look at the detailed names of some of the courses. But some of the things that you'll be able to get into are things like the new offline programming mode. There's a whole mobile development track. So for creating your first mobile applications, workshop, for improving upon that, those first mobile applications, another workshop, and so on. In the developers track for traditional Magic XPA programming, there should be some detailed deep dive workshops on GUI development and .NET controls, SQL optimization, HTML5 merge, and on and on. So anyway, I don't want to take too much time away from what Andy's doing here, but I just wanted to highlight that while there may be some questions here in the webinar that aren't answered, we've got a lot of material coming up in the users conference that I think you'll all enjoy. Sorry, Andy.
No problem. Thanks, Glenn. Okay, so we went ahead and the wizard's completed. We can go ahead and verify that our .apk file has been in fact created. Now the last thing to do is to build and compile our application file. So doing so, I'll go ahead and create a cabinet or our ECF files. And my first app, go ahead and create the ECF. We'll go ahead and start the server, my first app. And just like that, we are ready to test our application. So now, pulling up our emulator. Oops, sorry, here's our emulator. We'll go ahead and go to the browser. And I accidentally closed it too quickly, but I don't know if any of you saw. In the deployment wizard, we were provided with a URL that our IIS set up for us. We'll go ahead and navigate to that site, which was dev2.magic-inc.com/magicria applications 24B. And, oops, wrong folder. We'll go ahead and go to My First App, select our platform, and download our .apk file. It's a quick download. Once again, this .apk download is a client application that will be pointing to our Magic XPA servers. This is where the application is hosted. Also, on some brand new Android devices, it automatically blocks installing from an unknown source. So you can quickly access the settings and enable and allow installation from unknown sources. We'll go to Applications, and as we can see, go to Downloads, and we'll install it again. Generally, these installations are quite quick. Once it's done installing, we'll go ahead and open it and verify that our application is working. Now, as you can see, we have the default Magic splash screen. In the wizard, we left it as we didn't import our own customized one. So by default, we will the application has the default Magic logo as well as loading screen. So let's go ahead and test our first button. This is just a pop-up message that said "Hello World." Hello World, perfect. And our second button will take us to our second program, which was our data table. As we can see, we have our entries here. Perfect. Now this concludes our first part of the webinar. The second part, as you recall, is to take it to offline, and I'm sure this is what the majority of you are waiting for. As you all know, Magic XPA now enables RIA applications to work while not connected to a server, and as a result, store the database and information locally on the client. You can now build the application with both connected and offline capabilities for Windows, iOS, and Android devices. And offline applications allow the users to continue to be productive in areas with intermittent or limited or unavailable internet connectivity. Now, the first screen we're going to be taking offline is our welcome screen. Just like that, I've enabled offline. Going in, don't need to change anything else. This is just a simple screen with two buttons, 2 events, and images. I'm going to go ahead and recompile our ECF file. I'm going to restart our server so that it can pick up the new ECF. Alright, shutting down the server. Oh, sorry, wrong one. Starting it back up. And by doing so, I've updated the change for the first screen going offline. And just like that, I'll go ahead and run my first app again. As you can see, I'm currently connected to the internet. As Glenn stated, the only time we need to connect an offline application is at the beginning, so that it can download all the required files and all the necessary data and details for our application to run offline. After that, essentially, you would never need it to connect to the server again. Of course, there comes in data syncing and image syncing and all the server functions. This, of course, will need to relay back to the server by definition. So we ran the application once on Wi-Fi. Let me go ahead and close the application, and as well as shut down our Wi-Fi on our device. Go ahead and switch the Wi-Fi off and run our application. It's loading, and just like that, as you can see at the top right corner of our tablet, there is no Wi-Fi connectivity, and our application has started up. We can go ahead and click on the first button, our Hello World, and the event is still caught. Now with the second button, we only made one program offline. One of the limitations currently with the offline feature is that offline programs can only call other offline programs. Now what's going to happen when I call this online program, it's going to give me an error. Unable to connect. It's trying to connect to the database server right now because that's how the program was configured. I'm going to go ahead and close that. Now, as I stated before, what we mean by offline here at Magic is the entire application is taken offline. Everything that we've created is stored locally onto the device. And when it comes to data syncing, there's many functions that we've introduced in order to handle getting data onto our devices, whether it's our data view to source function, which copies databases over to our local database on our device, server file to client, which will send a server file to a client. All these new functions can be found in the documentation of developing offline applications. Now, it's quite a long process, and I've gone ahead and prepared a sample program just to kind of walk through the offline feature and generally one way to handle data syncing. Now, there's many other ways to handle this offline data syncing, which we go over in our documentation, depending on how much data you'll be syncing and how often this data will need to be synced. It's completely up to the user how they determine when and how their data will be synced. But as I mentioned earlier, Magic has utilized our local database gateway. Here I have two databases. This is just a sample database of our users and login credentials for our mobile applications. Now, as you can see, both tables are identical. However, one is accessing directly to a server, and the other is accessing to the device's local memory. Now we have two different programs. We have one that is a table view accessing the local device's database, and one accessing the online database. Now, as I stated earlier, when an application is taken offline, everything is accessing this local gateway. This is required in order to be, by definition, offline. We can't have an offline application accessing an online server. Also note in the documentation, a lot of functionalities are not supported by offline features, and generally these are all server functions. By definition, these cannot be supported, whether it's direct SQL or calling server functions. Generally, with converting an offline application, it's a different type of architecture, as Glenn stated. There's different design patterns that need to be implemented. One of the currently what I'm showing you is one of the ways to handle our data syncing. We copy our online definition database to our local database, and from there we copy it over onto the device, and from there on we're able to access the online quote-unquote database our online database onto our device, and from there we're able to browse this table offline. And as you can see, when we add this local database gateway, we can handle it on a development level the same way we handle any other database definition. And that basically concludes today's demo on mobile applications and taking them offline.
Okay, fantastic, Andy. Thank you very much. And we'll look forward now to see if we can get some questions in. Please go ahead and enter your questions into the question box or the chat box. And as we receive those, we will be happy to respond to those questions. So we've got a few people online here today, so we're hoping to get some questions for you, Andy. So we'll just be patient while they're entering those questions in. Although I think everything was actually very, very clear. So great job on the demo.
Yeah, but as I stated, with the documentation, there's a whole world of sync processes and how to handle when to sync. It's kind of a complex system, but we have solutions for any possible needs.
Okay, great. I don't see any questions coming in. I'm stunned. We never do these webinars for our presenters, so they're either completely lost or you were so astoundingly clear, Andy. I'm not sure which. but there's no question. So I want to thank everyone for joining us, and we'll look forward to seeing you on another Magic webinar very soon. And thanks again for joining us.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Glenn.